I gotta keep it real. Like, I'm not about to stand up here and talk about my accomplishments, talk about the hits I made. It was fun, don't get me wrong. I loved every single minute of it. But I would be doing you guys a disservice if I didn't come up here and lay my heart out to you all as men. We're all men in this room. And I can look at each and every one of you all in the eye and know for a fact that we're all carrying a weight that nobody can see. We're all dealing with something. Most people know when they hear my story, they know about UGA, they know about the big plays, they might know about the YouTube video with the guy that's like, it pops like Rennie Curran on the tech. They know about those different things. But for just like anybody, man, there's the story that you see that's in the forefront, and then there's the real story that nobody hears. There's a story that most of the time they're not gonna talk about. I want to tell you guys about my story and what led me to UGA and what has led me and sustained me after UGA. I haven't played at UGA since 2009. And I tell athletes all the time, man, that you are gonna be a man, you're gonna be a father a lot longer than you're gonna be an athlete. And if you think that that football or that job or whatever it is gonna sustain you, you're fooling yourself. And so I had to learn that over time, that it's about God, ultimately. It's about your soul, it's about where you're going, it's about when you take those things off, who are you? And so for me, both my parents, I'm gonna start from the beginning, both my parents, Liberian immigrants who came here in the early 80s. My mom came here, $10 in her pocket, they didn't have anything. My dad came after she got her master's from Emory, so that's how we ended up here. She got her master's in nursing from Emory. Dad, he did something that a lot of immigrants do, so he just picked up a skill just to survive. One of his friends at that time fixed shoes, and just like cowboy boots, designer shoes, it was a unique skill, so that was the skill he picked up for us to survive. We were off Buford Highway, Northview Hills, y'all know Pink Pony? Across the street, yeah. The little apartments, the broke down apartments that sits on hills, that's where I grew up. Crazy thing is, I didn't even know Buckhead and all this existed. Grew up in a 3-bedroom apartment, and during this time, my earliest years, there was a civil war that took place in my parents' home country where over 400,000 people lost their lives. Millions of people became refugees, right? So I saw my parents just step up during that time, and they were my first example of what like being servants looked like, humble servants looked like. They stepped up during that time, and they helped a lot of my uncles, aunties, cousins, not just get a plane ticket, but like, I'm talking about start a whole new life. We had people in our 3-bedroom apartment at all times. It was always full. Mom would wake up before she drove she worked at Grady Hospital, 40 years. But she would wake up 4 a.m. and cook food for everybody. And then go to work and then come back. My dad worked in Kennesaw, Town Center Mall. He would drive 12 hours a day, fix shoes, and then come back. And so I spent many nights just seeing them sacrifice, spending the night sleeping on floors. And because so many people came in and out of our house, that opened up the door for a lot of other things as well too. At the age of 8 years old, I was molested as a child. Most people don't know that. I don't share that. The only reason I can share that now is because I'm healed. At 9, 10 years old, I'm over at my uncle's house. It gets late. I'm switching to the TV channels. This is before football, y'all. And there's a reason why I'm sharing this with y'all. So I'm flipping through the channels. Y'all know exactly what I'm about to say. It's late at night. I get to the upper channels, and then all of a sudden I discover pornography. The reason why I share that is because the enemy starts early, very, very early. And so I learned, and I came from a Christian home, grew up in a Christian home, went to church. I played the drums in church. I was in the front row every single Sunday. And so I learned very early on to have multiple identities. Like many of us men, you learn how to play the role, how to perform, how to do all the right things and say all the right things. But then when nobody's looking in the dark, you're a completely different person. That was me. And then you add on football. At 10 years old is when I started playing. We moved out to Gwinnett County, Brookwood High School, football powerhouse. Met my Little League coach, met my teammates. Everything was great. I didn't know what I was doing out there, but I loved the game of football. My parents knew absolutely nothing about football. They just thought it was a bunch of people hitting each other. first time I told somebody on the podcast that the first time I went on the field, or first picture day, I went out there with some church shoes on. Like I literally did not know what I was doing out there. But I fell in love with it. My Little League coach was the biggest Georgia fan in the world. He's from Alamo, Georgia. Anybody know where Alamo is? Always one person knows where that is. It's somewhere in the middle of South Georgia, but that's where he was from. Took me to my first game at 10 years old. First time I remember walking in there, it was like 2001. I remember seeing David Green, David Pollock, Musa Smith, and that was the dream. I was like, man, this is it. This is what I want to do. I want to be a Georgia Bulldog. I made up my mind at that moment, ain't nothing gonna stop me. And then what happened was life. Life started lifing. Not too long after that time, man, came home, dad lost his business, fell into a season of alcoholism and depression. And I told somebody else, that was the first time that I saw my father, the man in my life, the first time I saw a man be stripped of his identity when he lost his job. And it was almost like foreshadowing what would happen to me later on in my life. But he felt like nobody respected him. He felt like he didn't have any value. And I remember looking at him and thinking to myself like, Dad, I love you more than your job. I don't care about how much money you make. I don't care about what you do. But he was going through it. And then my mom at that time, she had a surgery that went bad and she almost died. And so we went from middle class, family doing pretty well, to struggling. Always needed a ride. Free and reduced lunch meals, food banks, coming home, lights cut off. And that's the first time I really saw God show up in my life, and it was through the people around me, through the people in my community, my Little League coach, and our the families on my team that year. I was in the 7th grade. We thought we weren't gonna get anything. And they showed up, and on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, we get a knock on our door, and they showed up with gifts. And they blessed us, man. Bought us groceries. His wife would take me and buy me clothes. And then he took me to a trainer by the name of Chip Smith. And Chip let me train for free. Favor is real. He let me train for free. So at 12 years old, 13 years old, I'm walking around Chip Smith's facility, and I get to see jerseys hanging up on the wall. Long before I ever made it to the NFL, I meet Brian Urlacher at 15 years old. I meet Jesse Tuggle. When I get to 9th grade, I played running back. Most people don't know, I didn't even play linebacker. I played running back all throughout Little League, middle school, got to high school, didn't get along with the coach. I couldn't stand that man. I was literally ready to quit football. Imagine that. He made me feel like an idiot, made me lose my confidence. I went to my same Little League coach. If you guys have seen the movie Rocky, my Little League coach was like my Mickey. We still talk to this day. My Little League teammates, we still talk to this day, 20-something years later. I went to him, I said, man, coach, I don't want to play no more, man. He said, Rennie, I want you to focus on what you can control. Focus on what you can control. And I tell everybody, man, it was like, I know y'all seen Waterboy. Man, I was like, all right. I'm gonna hit every single thing moving. I'm gonna either be near, I'm serious, y'all. I said, I'm gonna either be near the ball or I'm gonna make every single play. I don't care what I gotta do. And then I took it a step further. I'm like, man, I don't care what I can't control where they put me at, if they let me start or not, or what. But I'm gonna focus on my work ethic. I'm gonna focus on my character. I'm gonna focus on how I show up. I'm gonna focus on just being positive. I'm gonna smile even when things are tough. And that honestly is what got me from freshman year. That's what got me moved up from freshman to varsity. That mentality that I'm gonna freaking control what I can control. I'm gonna lean on my faith. I'm gonna trust and believe. I'm gonna treat people right. My parents they always taught me, man, just speak to people. Be good, be a good person. So I started just my teachers, people around me. I don't care who you were. I don't care if you were Gothic, what you were, I was gonna treat you with respect. My janitor, I talk about him all the time. My janitor, Mr. Poole. I would get to my high school at 6 a.m. most of the times. And sometimes I would get there early so that me and my dad could dump the trash, because at that time we couldn't even afford the garbage bill. I would get there and Mr. Poole would always be there. I tell this story every time, man. But he would always be there to open up the door for me so I could watch extra film, so I could separate myself. And I think about that as such a powerful analogy in life, because you never know who God will use to open up doors for you. You never know. It was people like that. It was the lunch ladies. The lunch ladies that would give me extra food when I was trying to hit, when I was here and I was too short. And they would give me extra food. They would say, Rennie, go back in the line and pick something up. It was my community that blessed me, man. And through that hard work, through that dedication, I was able to get to UGA. But I told somebody else this, every level I got to, there was an obstacle. And going back to what I said before, those things that happened in my childhood, could not escape it. You could not escape those things, those wounds, those things that the enemy does, those things that he plants, those seeds that he plants, cannot escape it. You got to do the work. You got to face yourself eventually. So I got to UGA. I was dating my girlfriend at the time. We were in a toxic relationship, and I couldn't let that thing go. Couldn't let that thing go, even though I should have. Ended up after my freshman year, after making it UGA, after things were going great, got on the field, everybody's starting to know Rennie Curran's name. And so I'm starting to focus on my performance. Everything is about getting here. Everything is about getting to the next level. Everything is about helping my family. Everything is about making that money so my family doesn't have to struggle. But I'm starting to slowly put that character on the wayside. And that's what we do many times as men. We start to focus on all this. We want to become a high performer. But just because you're a high performer doesn't mean you're a high performing leader. Those are two different things. And so what happens after my freshman year? My daughter's born. I become a father at 20 years old. Got no business. And I struggled, y'all. How many of y'all been to Athens on a Saturday night? Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. The struggle was real. And I did not know who I was. I knew who I was on the football field, right? I had my faith. I was going by the script, but I really wasn't living in accordance with the word. My identity was not in Christ. Because if my identity was in Christ, I would have had more self-worth. There's certain things that I wouldn't have done. Certain ways that I wouldn't have treated women, but I did not know who I was. I did not know what my values were at that time. I knew what my values were when I put that jersey on. Come across that A gap, see what's gonna happen. I knew what to do then. But outside of that, I struggled. But unfortunately, the world is gonna reward performance. The world rewards what you do when you're in front of 90,000 people. The world doesn't care about who you are when you take that jersey off as much until something bad happens. And so focus on my career, focus on football, locked in, did everything I could. By the time I got by the time I left high school, y'all, I was benching 425, squatting 515, cleaning 320. That's how much I killed myself to get every single thing I could out of this 5'10 and a half, 5'11 foot frame. Yeah, killed myself. Was able to finally get to the NFL after my junior year. And I told myself, man, I'm gonna do everything I could to help my family. Got there, everything started out great. Drafted 3rd round, one of the best moments of my life. I'll never forget getting that phone call, man. And I told Josh, it's like, man, when you get that phone call, it's so much more than just a phone call. It's like your whole life flashes. All the times you heard no, all the times you had the setbacks, all the work you put in, all the times you could not do certain things for your family, but you wanted to. Your inner child weeps in that moment. So I got there. And this was another moment where God showed up. I remember when I got to the NFL, I got drafted, everything was going great. Going through OTAs, get to July, right? Most people don't know when you get drafted, you don't actually get paid until you make the roster. It's not like Publishing Clearinghouse where they give you the big old check. But got to July, right? And I got my first installment because you get that signing bonus before you actually make the roster. So I got my first installment. I remember, y'all, I was so happy. I was like, man, damn, man, we made it. We good. Opened up my laptop. I checked my accounts. I looked at, all my statements from previous. Everything was in the reds. I was a broke college kid. There wasn't no NIL back then. Couldn't even get free meals, man. It was ridiculous. I don't even want to get started on that, but so I checked my statements, and then all of a sudden I see that first hit, and I'm like, we good. We in there. And I remember at that moment, I was in my townhouse in Nashville, and I'll never forget that feeling. The silence became so loud because I realized, like, in that moment, I was like, man, is this it? This all I've been chasing my whole entire life? Is this it? That feeling of fulfillment, it went away just like that. And then all of a sudden I came back to myself and I realized, like, I'm by myself in this townhouse. I'm out here killing myself, and I can't even see my daughter. I get to see her one day after a game, that's it. And at that moment, it just made me refocus. It was like I had that awakening moment where I'm like, man, it's gotta be much more than this to this. And I can only imagine that so many of us go through that, where we get here, and it's the worst feeling in the world. When you get here, you get all the money, you get all the things that you think is gonna make life so fulfilling and solve all your problems, and you realize you can't buy your way out of it. It's the worst feeling in the world. Not too long after that, after my second year, coaching staff gets fired. The lockout happened. New staff comes in. So just like that, went from Rennie Curran, welcome to the Tennessee Titans, we're so happy to have you here, to phone call. And the crazy thing was I led the team in tackles that year. I did everything I could. Led the team in tackles like I always had. Phone call, next day. After my second year, preseason ends. Coach wants to see you. Bring your playbook. That's all they say. I'm like, oh man, that can't be right. Like they're probably gonna tell me I'm a starter or something like that. Showed up, coach, thank you, Rennie. We appreciate you, but we're no longer gonna need you. They give you that black trash bag, pack up your stuff, it's over. I'm back home, and for 8 months, y'all, I'm just in the wilderness, wondering who am I? What am I gonna do with my life? What if I never play football again? Who am I? And that's when God really started to work on me. That's when he started to help me uncover what my true value was. That's when I started reading, really getting into the word. That's when I really started to understand those different Bible verses that I would say that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's when I really started to understand it. I started writing my first book. I started reading books. I never liked reading books, y'all, or writing unless I was trying to get a girl's number. That's it. Y'all remember before social media, before the DMs, it was writing that love letter. Do you like me? Yes or no? That was me all day. But I started writing, and God gave me that desire to understand that this moment is not about you. What you're going through is not about you. And I started thinking about people who would also be free agents, who would be also going through times of transition, who will also be questioning their identity and their self-worth. And so at the age of 22 years old, I started writing that book, and I released it in the next year. And then I started speaking, something that I had been doing my entire life without even knowing it. In the 9th grade, my counselor, she put me as a peer leader. When I started getting good at football, I didn't even know what leadership was, but she had me going and sitting during lunchtime with kids who were sitting by themselves and speaking life into them and just spending time with them. Then I would go to the elementary schools, and I would go and visit the kids and read books to them. And then they would say, Mr. Rennie, Mr. Rennie. And I was like, Mr. Rennie, hold up. I'm making an impact. And then when I would do interviews after the games or pre-game speeches, there would be something that would be risen up in me. And I didn't even know that God was using that. All those moments, I thought it was about football. I thought it was about being the greatest linebacker, but really he was already orchestrating my path. He was just using football as a platform. And I'm sharing that to say that many of you all, you're in positions right now. It may not be a good position. It may be a confusing space that you're in, but understand that God is using whatever you're going through for something so much bigger, something so much greater that you can't see, and you won't be able to see it until you get into certain spaces in your life. And so fast forward, I end up going to the Tennessee Titans, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I got that call after 8 months to be with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm like, hey, we good. We in there. Draft came. Guess who they drafted? Levante David. Future Hall of Famer. So you already know how that ended. Got cut again, went up to Canada in the freezing cold. And this whole time, I'm battling back and forth. Now I'm speaking is starting to grow. Coaching is starting to grow. I'm starting to do more. I'm starting to question even if I even enjoy football anymore. But I'm still clinging on to that identity. Still clinging on to what comes with it, the validation, the self-worth, the perception that comes with being on the field. It was a struggle. It was a fight. And so after years and years of chasing, I remember it got to the point where speaking and coaching and all that, now I'm literally sitting in the film room and I'm like, what am I doing here? God had literally removed that desire, but I was still hanging on to it. I was still fighting for it. And it got to the point where it was 2017 where I prayed the prayer of clarity. There was an opportunity that came up. Y'all know the XFL going on right now. Before XFL, there was a spring league. And so I got an opportunity to go to the spring league, and it was about 6 hours away in West Virginia. And so I'm driving up there, and I'm like, God, if you want me to play football, show me. You got to be careful when you pray this prayer now, because he will answer. But I said, God, if you want me to keep playing, show me. Don't let it be any doubt in my mind. I don't want an ankle sprain. I don't want no bruises, because you know I'm going to just go right back out there. If you want me to keep playing football, let me know. If you want me to go down this new route of inspiring and being a leadership speaker and doing all this, show me. When I got out there, y'all, first day, we got our playbooks. We met with the coaching staff. We met our teammates. Second day, we did our walkthroughs. The third day was our first day of practice, my first rep. I went against Ben Tate, who played running back at Auburn. I remember seeing him jog out there. I'm like, oh yeah, I got him. Did one-on-one drills. So I'm back here, getting ready to cover him. He runs up, I run up, boom. I started falling backwards in slow motion. Tried to get back up, planted my left knee, and I just collapsed. I felt the pain that I never felt my entire career. I've had big old 6'6" offensive linemen fall on me, and I just get right back up. I've had kick returners run into the back of me, I just bounce back up. This time, I didn't get back up. I hobbled over to the training room. By the time I got about 20 yards, my knee was like as swollen as my thigh, and I knew it. 2 days later, I'm back in Athens, and I'm with Ron Corson, our head trainer, and he's like, Rennie, man, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you completely tore your patella tendon. So I went from squatting 400, 500 pounds to my mother having to bathe me. It was humbling. At the same time, I had peace because I knew that God had me, that my steps were ordered. 3 days later after surgery, I'm on a stage at a middle school and I'm speaking to them. I'm speaking life into them in tears. And I never looked back. I still use football. I still use everything that he gave me, all the skills and everything now. But I know that what I'm doing now, man, is so much greater, so much bigger, that I'm making way more impact than I can ever make on a football field. And it's a blessing. It's a blessing. But that was just the first part, was God changing, ordering my steps, getting me out of that environment. By now, my daughter's older. So like I said, my daughter was born in Athens. Now, by this time, my daughter is 9, 10 years old. And like I shared with y'all, those things that happened in my childhood that affected how I moved as a man, my character, how I treated women, it was starting to catch up with me. It was starting to catch up with me. When my daughter was young, 2, 3, how many of y'all got kids in here? Yeah. Hear me. When my daughter was young, I was her best friend. I could do no wrong. About 5, 6, 7 years old, she started asking questions. Daddy, why'd you just do that? Why'd you say that? Nine, 10 years old, now we're starting to have arguments. By the time we got to 11 or 13, it was bad. It was really, really bad. That's when it got to the point when I left football and I had to face myself and I had to spend more time around the people that I love. That's when I knew I had to do that work. And that had nothing to do with how much weight I could lift, how fast I could run. It had nothing to do with performance. It was about that work on my heart, in my mind, my faith, my character, who I really was as a man. And I told myself, man, I gotta change. I gotta do the work. Because what I started to ask myself was, man, when my daughter gets old enough, when it's time for her to find a man, if I'm treating women any kind of way, how am I gonna be able to hold a man that she's with accountable? What am I gonna say to that man when I'm not living right? If a man is treating my mom or my sisters the way that I treat women and not the way that I move, how can I hold them accountable? How can I say anything to them? And so I started doing that work. I started going to therapy. I started going to counseling. I started facing myself. One of the first things I realized was that many of the things that make you great in one area of your life can be a weakness in other areas of your life. And it's so slick how the enemy works. He will give you so much pride in certain areas of your life, not realizing that it is damaging and causing, it's killing other areas of your life, and not just you, others around you. One example, in order to be a great linebacker, I had to literally, at my size, I had to shut off my emotions. I could not feel. In order to throw my body into somebody at full speed without thinking about it, there was just certain things I could not do. It helped me on the field because I was a freaking heat-seeking missile. But off the field, I had no empathy. That's why it was so easy for me to cheat. That's why it was so easy for me to have multiple women and do certain things, because I had no emotions. The first therapy session I had, the therapist, I remember he asked me, he was like, man, tell me about yourself. Tell me your story. I told him everything. I gave him the sales pitch, elevator pitch. I had it down. He was like, Rennie, do you realize that you talked nothing about your emotions? You shared nothing about how you felt? That was my first moment of understanding that, man, I have shut off certain parts of myself that I got to do this work. And when I say, man, it was hard, there was a certain times where I was just like, God, man, I don't know how I'm going to move forward. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I guess this is how I'm going to be. But I kept doing the work. I kept praying. I kept surrounding myself with the right people. I kept working on my thoughts. I kept doing the little things. And I'm telling this for any of y'all in here who are struggling and you don't know how you're going to work your way through. Keep doing the work. Keep surrounding yourself with the right people. Keep making those small little incremental gains. And things will change. It will change. Surround yourself with the right people. Have a personal board of directors is what I talk about. Have a thought, like think about your diet, right? If you wanted to get in the best shape of your life, but you're feeding yourself crap day in and day out, you got crap in your pantry, you open up that pantry, it's in there. What do you think your body's gonna look like? It's the same thing for your spirit. It's the same thing for your mind. You gotta feed yourself every day, positivity. Speak life into yourself every single day. When you wake up in the morning, you look yourself in the mirror and you tell yourself, man, I'm gonna win. God is with me. I'm not a failure. I heard every single thing, not just football-wise. As a father, I was called deadbeat. I was called every single thing in the book. So I literally had to fight, and I still have to fight every single day as a man. It does not stop. The enemy does not stop. And all it takes is one little moment, one little thing to change in your life for those thoughts to start seeping in, for you to start feeling like you're not good enough, you're not valuable enough, you're not whatever. That's all it takes. It's all it takes. I'm here to tell y'all, man, after that time, man, I have breakthroughs. I look at myself now and I'm a completely different man. I still have my struggles, still have my battles, but when I say my faith is strong, it's real. I know what God has done for me. That's why I can stand here and speak so boldly with conviction, because I know what he's brought me through. And I know that he's with me no matter what. No matter what. This year was one of the toughest years of my life, y'all. Every year we start out, go through New Year's, it's new year, new me, all that. You expecting great things to happen. That was not my year, y'all. First thing happened, Got in a car accident with both my parents to start off the year, like the first week of the year. Second thing, my pastor at my church. We lost my pastor that I grew up with about 4 years ago. My spiritual mentor. His son was the closest thing to my pastor. He died about 2 weeks later. So funeral. And then my fiance. We're supposed to be married this year. All of a sudden, challenges start happening. She decides, I want to figure out my life. I want to focus on my career. She moves out. Struggles. And it was hard. I'm not gonna stand up here and act like I was strong. I cried myself to sleep many nights, y'all. It was hard. It was embarrassing. I proposed to her in front of everybody that I love. And now we're going through that time. And now everybody that I see, Rennie, when are you getting married? Every time I pick up the phone and look at my phone, it's somebody with their family. It's somebody getting married. The enemy was attacking my mind, y'all. It's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. But at the end of the day, man, when you go through those dark times, I'm telling you, if you lean on the word of God, he will strengthen you. He will strengthen you and he will restore everything. He will restore everything. And so when I say like everything has been restored, our relationship is restored. And one thing I realized, regardless of if it was restored or not, regardless, same thing with football, all these different things that happen in our life, at the end of the day, you got to understand, man, that none of this stuff is certain. None of this stuff is final. The only thing that we can put our faith in is God, man. People come, people go, jobs come, jobs go, money comes, money goes. The only thing that you can stand on is God. That's it. That's what that experience taught me. You can trust in things if you want, things of this world if you want to. You can. But I'm telling you, you're going to end up disappointed. You're going to end up disappointed. We are all here as just stewards. We are stewards. We are stewards of the relationships that we've been given. It's not permanent. It's only a certain amount of time. You are stewards. That job that you have, you're just a steward of that job. So whatever you have, you better tell God, thank you for it. When it leaves, thank you, God. When it comes, thank you, God. That's all we can do. And today, I stand on my faith, man, knowing that my business can come, my business can go. My daughter, she loves me one day. She's 16 now. She loved me one day. We argued the next day. No matter what happens, though, it's that love of God that surpasses all understanding. The peace of God that surpasses all understanding, man, that gives me that real strength. That real strength. It's one thing to be strong, when you get in that weight room, but be weak spiritually and be weak mentally and be weak in those other areas. But when you got it all, man, you strong with your faith, you strong with your mindset. There's things that certain things that come that just cannot move you. And then when you start getting around with other men that also keep you in alignment, iron sharpens iron, it's a game changer, man. So guys, I'm gonna leave it with that. I'm gonna open up a question. It's been an honor just to share with you all, and I hope that something that I said has blessed you. So thank you. Thank you. Wow.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable and authentic. You seem like you had a roller coaster ride, a lot of highs and a lot of lows.
Yes.
And hearing about their highs, I also felt like in those moments you had like this opposite effect too, where in your valleys you actually had spiritual growth, and in your highs you had your spiritual kind of attacked.
Yeah.
Now as you're looking at your future, kind of like being a leader, being a speaker,
Yeah.
how do you help coach yourself into realizing that certain situations you're going to felt are being presented to you to make you stronger? Like you're you're anticipating already, like, this is going to be another obstacle, right? You dealt with obstacles, like, okay, I just didn't have an obstacle. Like, I was now the one getting tackled, right, by life.
Right.
How do I respond to that? And what is your like mantra ultimately? Like, what do you tell yourself every day?
I love that question, man. Great question, bro. One of the mantras that I live by is operate at the level of your vision. So that's one thing, man. I don't think about that current circumstance that I'm in. I'm thinking about the future version of myself. How does that person move? How do they handle adversity? How do they handle challenges? That's the first thing. The second thing is I'm very, very intentional about self-reflection. And so every Sunday, without fail, I'm taking the time to go back through my week and I'm reviewing the different interactions, the different things that have happened, and I'm tracking my wins. I'm writing them all down. Areas of improvement, lessons, things that I need to build on, I'm writing that down. And you start stacking that up year after year after year. It makes a difference in your perspective. We all have a part of our brain that's called our RAS system, reticular activating system. That's the part of your brain that's like a heat-seeking missile. It focuses on what you focus on, and it amplifies it. So if you tell yourself, man, when you go through something that, dang, this is horrible, or, man, my life sucks. Man, why so-and-so did this to me? Dang, they treat me this kind of way. Dang, this. All of a sudden, your mind starts looking for more of it. You ever wanted a car or something, and then all of a sudden you start seeing that car on the highway? That's your RAS system. So it's the same thing, and it works either to help you or to hurt you. And so I'm very intentional about what I choose to focus on, my thoughts. Like I talked about, your thought diet is real, man. So those are some of the things that help me, whether I'm in the valley or whether I'm in the mountaintop, to still reflect. You know, if I'm in the mountaintop, man, hey, what do I need to do to maintain? To not get caught up in this, to not become consumed in this, because I understand that God has me here for a reason. And maybe it's just to prepare me for the winter. Maybe he has me in this valley because it's not about me, because he wants me to develop empathy in this space so that when I get back up here, I won't forget what this feels like. And then when I see others who are here, I'll be able to lead them out of here. There's so many things that I covered on both sides, man. And so that's where it started, was having those mantras like that. And then that self-reflection is huge. So yeah, great question. Thank you.
Hey, Rennie, great time talking here tonight.
Thank you, man.
Question for you, man. You talked about in your childhood being molested and also being exposed to pornography. How did you battle that? How have you dealt with your interaction with women since then and growing from that?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's another great question. And one thing I forgot to mention about, the pornography piece. Like I told y'all, I found pornography at my uncle's house. And I want y'all to understand this, man, that the things that you're dealing with, the problems that you think nobody sees and that doesn't impact anybody, I call, like what happened there, I call that friendly fire. He didn't intend for me to discover that, but I did, unknowingly to him, right? He's not a bad person, but his challenges ultimately impacted me. And it's so powerful to me to when I think about that, because as men, we don't think about the ripple effects of our decisions, our actions, how we move. We don't think about it until many times it's too late. The damage has already been done, right? We think about it in terms of when we're making money and we're able to do things for people, we're able to provide, but we don't think about that opposite. When we're not operating in our calling, when we're not covering our families, when we're not praying the way that we need to. But when it came to battling that was what I had to think about. I had to think about the ripple effects. I had to have like a legacy mindset, man. That's what really did it for me. Like I said, when I thought about my daughter, man, and our relationship, man, I was like, there's no question I gotta change. There's no question. And then I started, there were several books I read during that time, like when I was around 26 to 30 years old. That's when that shift slowly started happening. But there was one book that I read about manhood that talked about how every man within us, we have a master and we have that dog. Every man. The master is the one that is your spiritual side. The one that has that dog on that leash. The one that has that dog on that leash, the one that is self-controlled, the one that has discipline. The dog is the one, you know, the dog sees meat, it runs. It has no self-control, right? It smells, it hunts. And it's all about which one you feed. That's the one that's going to win in those certain moments. So I feed my master every single day, whether it's through books, whether it's through, like my morning routine is prayer, I call it DPJ, devotion, prayer, journaling. Then I work out. Then I meditate. I try to surround myself with other God-fearing men, other masters, right? Guys who hold me accountable without having to say a word. And it's still a battle. And y'all know how easy it is. It's so easy. All you got to do, pick up your phone, right? Hop on that app, start swiping. You have a whole roster, right? It's that easy nowadays. So you literally have to fight every single day. It's a war, it's a battle. And the thing that I hate most as men, we don't treat it like the war that it is. We don't understand, man. That spiritual warfare is real. And if you got children, you got to double down even more. You got to cover your children. That's why many of our families are attacked, is because the men are not praying. The men are not leading devotion. The men are not convicted. They're spending more time on their job and trying to hit that next sales goal than they are with their children. Their children don't even know them. And that opens up the gateway. Just like if you were at your house and you were not there to protect your family, you're doing the same thing spiritually if you do not cover your children and cover your family and cover yourself as a man. So those are the things that I have to do, man, every single day, man. Going back to my daughter, her mother and her stepfather are not believers. So I had to cover my child every time she's with me. I get her every other weekend. Every time she's with me, we got to go to church, man. We got to do devotion. And I'm not just I say, hey, pray. You pray. What do you think about that scripture? And because of those seeds I planted, she's a woman of faith today. She's a woman of faith today. And she has 2 siblings. And I told her, I'm like, you're going to be the one to give your siblings salvation. You're going to be the one. You got to be the one. There's a reason why you're in the position you are now, Ely. I call her Ely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man.
You said it several times during your talk, having to face yourself.
Yeah.
How do you forgive yourself?
Boy, how do you forgive yourself, man? You got to remember the truth. You got to remember the truth, man. You got to get in the word. That's the first and foremost thing. And you got to, it's a process of forgiving yourself. It's a process. It's a process of self-acceptance, right? But I'm telling you, the more you get in that word, because when you get in the word, right, you start to understand that there's other men just like you, who were great men, who were after God's own heart and still struggled. David, Paul, right? Like, do y'all really I think about that all the time, the story of Paul, going from Saul to Paul, literally killed and crucified, persecuted Christians. Like, today's age, he would be canceled. Think about that. And he was walking next to Jesus. Crazy. So you got people like that struggled as men. It's like, man, I'm gonna be all right. No matter what you do, and understanding that God, when you read those stories, it's like, man, God can use anybody. Are you a Paul? Do you have the background like Paul? Nah, I hope not. So it really starts there, man. It's about perspective. But then, like I said, you got to do that work day in and day out. Because it's like, even after you forgive yourself, the enemy's still going to try you. The minute you even think about going back to that thing, he's going to start filling up your mind with, see, you pray, but you still doing this. You pray, but you still having these thoughts. You haven't changed. And then the worst thing about it, the enemy is going to use the people closest to you to attack you sometimes, So it may be somebody in your family, it may be somebody you used to date who's like, oh, you ain't ish. I know who you are. I remember what you did 10 years ago, right? And that's when you got to stand firm in who you are even more. And you got to understand that, man, even when you do that work, even when you become the best person, there's still going to be people who don't see you past your past. They won't see you past your past. And that's okay, because it's not, your destiny is not up to them. Your value is not defined by them. Where you're going, man, has nothing to do with them. If they're the ones speaking negativity into your life, then 9 times out of 10, that's not who God has for you, right? So at the end of the day, you got to remember, what does God say about you? When you go home tonight, I want you to print out the promises of God. And I want you to read over that every single day. I want you to write that thing down. Write down what your beliefs are. And I want you to read that every single day. And I'm telling you, man, it will start to shift your mind. And then you have to back up those beliefs with actions to reinforce that identity. And I'm telling you, it's not an easy road, but it gets better. Yeah, forgiveness is a process. Yeah.
I'd love to know, what are some ways as you kind of went through your journey post-college and go through the post-NFL and kind of going on your walk?
Yeah.
What are some ways that you surrounded yourself in the community and other men, and do you have a story or a way that you found those guys? What was that like in your walk, and how did that impact you?
Yeah, oh man, I got so many stories like that, man. There was a group that I joined. Y'all probably heard of the group 112, right here in Atlanta. Y'all heard the songs. Cupid, I mean, it's an R&B music group. They're like Boys to Men. But the leader of that group, Q Parker, he was a guy that I met on a cooking show. Randomly, right? And so probably like 5 years later, he calls us all into a meeting. And I'm like, oh man, Q Parker reaching out to me, man, this is cool. Like, we about to hang out. He called us into that meeting because he was going through a season of infidelity. And he just had overcome that. And he was like, man, I don't want any other man to go through what I went through. And so he started a group called Brothers United. And that, since it was like 2013, 2014, we've been meeting like once a month as a group. Hundreds of men have been delivered through that group, through what he went through. And it's just been a safe space for us to just come and share and be real with each other. Things like that. So there's men like him who've stepped up because of the challenges and the struggles that they went through that I've connected with. And then there's just other men that God has planted in my life, or people that God had planted in my life that, man, the way that they move, man, it just challenges me. It holds me accountable. And that's what I talk about when I say like having a personal board of directors. Like guys who, man, are amazing husbands that when I look at, man, how they treat their wives. Coach Rick, he was another one. I still talk to Coach Rick now. I remember seeing like, man, everything could be going on. He's gonna have his kids in that facility. His wife is gonna be on the sideline serving us water. So there's certain men that, man, made an impression on me, man, that I'm just forever connected to them because of the way that they move, because of the fruits of their life and their character. So that was my journey, man, just clinging on to those guys, picking up the phone, calling them when I'm confused, when things are happening in my life, in my relationships, in my business, and knowing that, man, because of how they move, their character, their level of integrity, that I have a blueprint and a model to look to. So yeah.